This apple is definitely red.
Red? Under this light, it looks orangish to me.
Wait. You both look at the same apple, yet you see two different colors. So, who's actually right?
Obvious me. I can see it clearly.
But remember, our senses can trick us. Remember the whole blue gold dress thing controversy? Maybe you're just seeing, you're just expecting it to be red, so that's what you're seeing.
Then maybe knowledge isn't about what we perceive, but how we can justify it.
So I don't know. It's reddish until I can prove it.
Mm.
Exactly. In terms of knowledge, we learn that knowing something means more than believing or seeing. It's about justification and perspective. What seems obvious can be changed depending on how we look at it.
So maybe the real question isn't about what color is, it's about how we decide what we know to be true.
And that's the essence of our theory of knowledge journey, questioning what it really means to know.
Hi guys, I'm Shante.
I'm Henry.
I'm John.
I am Maurice.
Okay, and in this episode, we'll be talking about theory of knowledge, what we've learned, some theories that we've picked up, and our experience. So stay tuned, and hopefully you'll learn something too.
Hello, I'm here to discuss what is knowledge. And knowledge is another word you can say it is. What is epistemology? Epistemology comes from the Greek word episte and logos. When you talk about episteme, it is all about knowledge, and logos is about study. Altogether, epistemology. So, what is epistemology? It's a branch of philosophy that concerns itself with the search for theory or knowledge. Knowledge comes from the Greek word, and it is so fascinating to ponder what is knowledge, because we can ask ourselves, how do you know what we know? And that will be the part of our presentation or our discussion in this video. Please stay tuned as we discuss about it. Thank you.
So, Hendrikus, what about you? What is knowledge to you?
As knowledge is defined, so I I might explaining the knowledge is from the from a traditional knowledge of the epistemology is about justify true belief.
So, justified true belief. What is justified true belief?
Justified true belief is a traditional definition of knowledge, which is, it states that you to know something, you should believe in it, you should have good reason to believe, and that belief should be able to be tested or to be proven.
Mm. Okay. So now that we know what is knowledge, um, while in class, one theory that really stuck out to me was contextualism. And contextualism is a theory in philosophy that says the meaning of knowing changes depending on the context or situation. Which from here, contextualism, context must come to mind because it's in the name. So, in other words, whether we say someone knows something can depend on what's being discussed, what's at stake, or how much doubt is present. And some key takeaways I found in this theory was knowledge depends on context, as is in the name, contextualism. So, what counts as knowledge in one situation may not count in another. Example, saying, I know it's my car is fine in normal talk, but in a police investigation, you might need more proof. As well as one example that I really loved using, and I use it in class, um, the idea of knowing how to fish. In Jamaica, for instance, as a fisherman, knowing how to fish would, it's nice. You have that knowledge, it's great. But moving to somewhere else, like moving away from an island onto a big massive line like America, where there's not a lot of fishing opportunities, that knowledge now is useless. Not really useless, but you don't really need it because there's no context in which you would use that knowledge. All right. So another key point would be standards for knowing change. In casual situations, low standards are enough. In serious situations, the standards are higher. So another key point, it responds to skepticism. Contextualism helps explain why both ordinary knowledge claims like I know I have hands and skeptical doubts, can I really know I'm not dreaming, can make sense in their own context. And fourth and last, everyday use. It reflects how people naturally talk about knowledge differently depending on the situation. 1 minute you hear, oh, I know this, depending on where we're at. Like for instance, you can even take the apple. Okay, in like regular we're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I know this orange is red, but under different lighting, different situation, in a different context, you can start doubting, not really doubting, but doubting what you know, because the situation has changed, the context has changed, who you're talking to has changed, different elements have come into play. So contextualism helps us to understand why sometimes we say we know something easily, but other times we feel unsure. It all depends on the context. And I don't know, this theory, I really liked it because it's so practical and in everyday use. Because, as I said before, 1 minute we can know something and another minute we don't. And we are human. I feel like contextualism is such a I want to say a human theory, for lack of a better word, because we're ever changing, we are doubtful. What we can be presented with information in this context, in this situation, and it changes over time. And as such, what we know changes as well. So yeah, that's one of the things that really stood out to me, contextualism.
Welcome back. Now I'm here to discuss about types of knowledge, and the knowledge which struck me in this class or in this duration of lecture, it was about proposition knowledge, and I'm going to define what is proposition knowledge. Uh, Proposition knowledge refers to knowing facts or truths that can be stated. For instance, let's take this example, simple example. Kingston is the capital of Jamaica. That is a fact, and that is the truth. That is a good example of proposition knowledge. And this type of knowledge differs from how to do something or having personal relationships. Philosophers analyze proposition knowledge through the concern of JTB, that is justified true belief. Three conditions for proposition knowledge, that is belief in the proposition can be true, and the justification for the belief. And the belief, essentially, without it one cannot claim to know something, and the proposition must be true to qualify as knowledge. Justification requires good reason or evidence supporting the belief. So people can ask, how do we know what we know? And is knowledge the same for everyone?
University, and I'm going to share about my acquaintance knowledge with this type of knowledge. And according to Bernard Rashaw, he said acquaintance knowledge is an immediate and non-inferential form of knowledge gained through perpetual experience or immediate awareness. It involves familiarity with the place, people, or things, such as we can know the color by seeing it, or we can know the pain by feeling it directly. This type it can be acquired directly through quotient interaction between a person or object experience, where senses data are the primary object of acquired knowledge. So this knowledge is important. It's an quality that we can consider like a foundation of all knowledge. Ultimately, rest upon it provides that awareness of certain truths, such as our mental state, which are often seen as doubtable. For example, when I say that I feel pain or I believe in something, I am in pain, this I can access it directly through my experience or my familiarity with the things I am holding. Also, this knowledge it has its weaknesses, as it argues that idea can acquainted provide solid foundation for knowledge, calling it myths. It can be also a myth, it's challenged, question, and the limit of direct and quitted. If I can not distinguish between 47 and 50 or 49 through the direct perception, it suggests that acquainted knowledge may not only provide sufficient, precise, or justified belief, especially for complex mental states. Yeah, I can say that some philosophers argue that acquainted knowledge cannot serve as a justified belief true without acquainted itself to be justified. So this acquainted knowledge, when we acquire it through our immediate awareness, which is needed for inference or knowledge of truth, this include that our data or our perception and senses can sometimes deceive us, can deceive us. So it has that's its weaknesses, and it's important also, as I said, it's a foundation because for me to say that I know or I cite the truth about something, I have to know that thing. You can't say you're searching a mango if you don't know what a mango look like. But I say I search a mango because I know how it look like and I'm familiar with it, and it's something which I see and I say this is mango. So thank you, and that I can share what about acquainted knowledge.
One of the interesting things of learning theory of knowledge is about the theories. And one of the theories that's really resonated with me is about the correspondent theories of truth. The correspondent theory of truth is one of the oldest and most common theories about what it means for something to be true. And the correspondent theory says that statement is true if it matches or corresponds to reality. In other words, like truth is what we say fit the things actually are. So it's one of there are so many key points, but I'll tell you the first one is about the truth, about agreement of reality. So like a belief statement or proposition is true when it reflects or describes the world accurately. For example, the sky is blue. So it is true. It fits to the reality that we look at it, the sky is always blue. And another one is like an objective nature of truth. Truth exists independently of the people think or believe. Even everyone believed the earth was flat, it would still be false because it doesn't correspond to reality. And another one is about facts or statement relationship. Facts are things that exist in the world. Is it? In statement are description of those facts. A statement is true when it's correctly described fact, and it's true.
And not to cut you, Hendrikas, but one other theory of truth that really stood out to me? Pragmatism theory. I just love that one so much because it speaks about how basically what is true is what applies to us or what works. And I believe it resonates mostly with like science communities because in science you test, you have a hypothesis, you test, trial and error, and then when you come to a conclusion, there's so many revisions to that conclusion. So I just feel like pragmatism is such a nice theory, and not to delve too much into it because this is just episode 1 and we don't want to make it so long. So I think we're fine right now. with this episode, and we can call it an end for episode 1. But don't go to sleep, don't tune out, stay tuned, because we have a second episode coming up in which we will talk about the get here problem as well as our experiences overall. And you wouldn't want to miss out on that, would you?